All right. It's go time. Let's do it.
Let's party.
Good mid-morning and happy Veterans Day.
Good mid-morning and happy Veterans Day. See, now on the live feed, it looks like you said that first, but on the podcast, it looks like I said that first.
No one listens to our podcast. You just watch the live, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right.
Literally just got done working out.
Yeah.
Class went a little long, as I anticipated.
It's all right. I got a hard out at 11:30 today.
11:30. Ooh, so this is gonna be under an hour-long episode.
Well, we might have to extend it just to an hour since Bart made us late and started a little bit late. I blame Bartley. He won't listen to this, so we can just dog him the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just an hour of ripping on him.
We could do that.
Yeah.
If you got the three of us in, and we could call it like Trash Talk Tuesday or Trash Talk Thursday, depending on what day we recorded this.
Would that be more popular than our regular episodes?
I think we could go on tour, just like sitting next to each other. It's like, have you seen the? There's this BBC.
By the way,
radio show.
we're getting right into it. This is
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's this BBC radio show where they get movie stars. Like when Deadpool 2 came out, they had Ryan Reynolds and Josh Brolin, and they sit across from each other like this. But there's open space between them, no desk, and they're just sitting there, and they have them insult each other real calm and quietly. And basically, if you laugh, you get a point against you.
Yeah, I have seen that, but it's supposed to be like really innocent, like clean insult or something, right? I think I've seen the one with The Rock and Kevin Hart.
Oh, that's the good one. Josh Brolin to Ryan Reynolds is like, "You are extremely bad looking. You're not handsome at all." It's just funny watching them insult each other that way.
He's the one who plays Thanos, doesn't he?
Yeah. He played. That was a good year for him because he played Thanos in the Infinity War, and then he played. I think his name's Cable. Yeah, Cable in Deadpool 2. It's like Josh Brolin was just breaking it in there. And then he was in Sicario, I think. You ever seen Sicario?
Sicario?
Is it Sicario?
I've never seen it. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Somebody correct us.
That's with Benicio del Toro.
Yes.
So I said that right.
Yes.
But yeah, he was just crushing it that year.
Yeah. All right.
I like movies.
Yep. Same.
You want to talk current events? We don't have any past events, unless you count today's 9 a.m. class.
Hold that thought. You can say something. I'm going to plug the thing in so my phone doesn't go dead.
Okay.
So, keep going.
Okay, so current/past events. We are recording this on November 11th, 2020. That is Veterans Day. And if you are a trivia fan and were paying attention in our podcast 2 weeks ago, it's previously known as Armistice Day.
Yes.
Also called Remembrance Day.
Yes.
A bunch of different names. I feel like all of them, the nationalist, patriotic holidays could be Remembrance Day. Memorial Day, Independence Day.
So Mark G actually wrote me a really nice, it was either a text message or an email or something, maybe it was even a Facebook post years ago about really distinguishing between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So Veterans Day is the day to say thank you to people that are currently serving or have served in the past or their families, whereas Memorial Day is to recognize and honor those that have given their lives. So it's not the day to go and tell Mark or any of the Marks at our gym, thank you. Of course you can.
Right.
It's appreciated, as is always, but from a holiday reasoning standpoint, that's the difference between the two.
It's funny because on Facebook and Instagram you see a lot of people on Memorial Day saying thank you to all of our currently serving, and then again, like you said, the sentiment's nice.
Correct. Yeah.
Not the point. But that's interesting to hear. Good thing I did that correctly then in the class. I thanked everyone that's serving or has served. So,
yeah.
That's good.
I was also thinking about this, and I want to take just a minute because I do think that it's the right thing to do, but I was thinking about this as I was driving up here this morning. I had a sneaky suspicion, and I'm pretty sure that it was correct, but I was like, I bet you when we get into class today that there will be more that are either active duty, military, or retired, and or their spouses in class. So basically with military ties, then there are people that don't have like direct military ties
Right.
at the gym today, and that was definitely right.
Yeah, like you had Mark, Zach, Jim, Ed, Stephanie. Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, Melissa.
Yep. Really cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty wild. And I can even remember back to, early days of CFG, like when we got, I think Mark James is actually the first military person who ever joined the gym. Coincidentally, he's also our longest tenured coach. But I remember back then when Memorial Day, or probably when I did it wrong, but like, Veterans Day would roll around, or we would do something like a hero workout, we would actually, have, individual names of all the servicemen and women at the gym at the time.
Cool.
Yeah. And so that's, obviously when things were a lot smaller, but it was like, man, that list is infinitely long now. I mean, if we went back to the very beginning of everybody who has ever come through CFG, I mean, that list would be forever long.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
It's cool being in the area that kind of nourishes that, with Fishhawk and like River Hills right down the road, like the area. It's like, and then we have a military base.
Yeah.
Under an hour away with McDill. I think I was talking to Emily about this a couple weeks ago. It's cool being around a population like that because it's a population I never thought I'd be around, like in my position, but it's giving me a unique perspective on a bunch of different things. And then especially with Exos here, they get referred a lot of people through TRICARE.
Oh, yeah. I think the majority of their business is actually through TRICARE in the military.
And so there's always people coming in and out that I would say, and we could ask Exos this, they'd have a more accurate statistic, but from what I've seen, it's probably somewhere around like 80 to 90% of their people are military. And it's cool to kind of have that influence around. It's just another perspective on things to kind of look at, because they'll always look at things with like
a much more diverse lens.
Yeah, because of what they've experienced and had to do, or their current job, and so it's cool. I like listening to them tell stories. Mark G is, you've heard Mark G tell his story.
Yeah.
He's a great storyteller. So.
Oh, and Jay was in here this morning too.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
What did we do today?
We did a hero workout called Chad. It is, as written, it's 1,000 step-ups to a 20-inch box with a 45-pound or 30-pound rucksack strapped to your back. I have neither a 45 or a 30-pound rucksack, nor would that be anywhere near appropriate for me. So yeah, I just moved for 45 minutes. It was great, really good workout. I know you told the story of what it was for, but just for those that don't know, it's really to bring awareness to veteran suicide. So pretty big deal.
I forgot to mention this to the class. I was just talking to a few people out there after the class about this. Is the person it was named after, Chad Wilkinson. He was friends with Dave Castro, who I think everybody knows, but he Chad did this workout a lot, like this exact workout with the rucksack and with the reps to train to climb a mountain. So he used it as training, and so it kind of holds a little bit more weight instead of like, okay, so here's a workout we think Chad would have liked. It's no, here's a workout Chad did a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of like the same goes for the Murph. And so that adds another, like an onion. It adds another layer to the workout and why we're doing it. So.
Cool.
Yeah. Veterans Day 2020. Thank you to everybody that has served. Thank you to military families, military spouses or children, everybody.
Yep. Thank you. It's a big deal.
Next for current events, we are on the 11th of November, so in just like 2 short weeks, we have Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah.
We would have had Friendsgiving this Saturday, but alas, your sewage lines are...
We're still having issues, so it's... I would like to say that the repairs have begun, but it's still mostly in the assessment phase. I don't know. Yeah. That's all I'll say about that, Mark.
So Thanksgiving week schedule, what's that looking like?
I don't know. I was hoping you knew.
Pretty sure it is closed Thursday, Friday with.
We're probably closing
Yeah,
early.
we're closed Thursday. It's right there, actually on our whiteboard.
Okay.
Closed Thursday, Friday.
I'm not sure if we have a reduced schedule on that Wednesday. I know we normally don't have the evening,
Right.
but we will confirm that. So thankfully we've got a couple weeks. So.
Yeah, but expect to come in that Wednesday and then that Saturday, but Thursday, Friday.
Correct.
Enjoy your time on Thursday with your family. Maybe go for a 5K run. I know that they normally host something like that around here.
Yeah, the turkey trot.
Turkey trot, yep. I was thinking
know.
about doing it, but my shin was kind of bugging me, so I don't know. You
Yeah.
wanna say something?
I think it's worth mentioning it or reinforcing to people because I always get these messages like, why are you closed on this day or that day? Well, first and foremost, because we are a family, gym, right? I have a family, you have a family, everybody in here has a family. And my first priority is to make sure that I spend time with my family. And so it makes sense that I would also want the staff to spend time with their family.
How selfish of you.
Yes. And so when people, let's just say, are less than happy about, the 5 days during the year that we're closed, just go spend time with your loved ones and enjoy it and put your phone down and actually be present. And if you really want to work out that bad, text your coach and I promise a workout will be given. And if you have a barbell at home, it'll be given with a barbell. If you don't, we'll figure something out for you. Guaranteed. You don't have to miss your fitness, but let's just say it's 5, 6, 7 days a year. You can make do. Just get here the other 348 days a year, 358 days a year.
It's so funny that you say that because I never thought about it that way. Like, there's really only 5 days a year we're actually closed.
Yeah, something like that.
It's
Something
like
crazy.
Thursday, Friday of Thanksgiving week, depending on when Christmas falls,
Right.
like maybe 3 days there. We're not even closed today. Like, we just had one class today,
Right.
so I wouldn't even call that closed.
No.
It's
It's only a few, and look, I know people are very, tongue-in-cheek whenever they make comments, but it is really important for me to let people know because it's like, well, you can just come up here, for an hour, and it's not even about that. It's not even about the fact that it's not, number one, it's not just an hour. You've coached enough classes to know that it's all the prep that goes in beforehand, afterwards, and yes, that's part of running the business, but I would rather tell you, no, Mark, it's really important to me that you spend time with your family. Period.
right.
End of story. Yeah. Cool.
Like I said, how selfish. Well, there you go. That's the reason why we will be closed on Thursday, the 26th, and Friday, the 27th. Filthy 50 on the 28th. As
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's
I think that's what we normally do. So we'll do that again.
So last podcast we did was actually only a couple of days ago, Saturday morning.
Yeah.
We did it at the front of the gym, which was really cool. I wonder if the sound, this is just kind of a side note, I wonder if the sound will be a little bit better. I don't know if you heard the video. It just sounded like we were much further away than we normally are, but we actually weren't like much further. So I think it was just because this is such a small, echoey room, it probably gets back into there better. But anyways, on that Saturday, we kind of, sort of had a presidential election.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on who you ask or, what you read. But anyways, the reason that I wanted to bring that up is not to talk about politics at all. But I know you just finished a really good book.
Yeah.
Do you want to just give a quick recap? Like, what'd you think?
Yeah, and I'm probably, we've been using this phrase, we used it last week, and I like it because especially with something this sensitive, I think it's true. I'm willing to jump on a grenade right now to talk about this book and really just the tagline of what it talks about. So it was actually in the episode title, I forget what episode it was, somewhere in the 40s, but you talked about it. It's called Love Your Enemies by Arthur Brooks. And basically what I took away from this book, of course it says love your enemies, but what does that mean? Is to read between the lines and just kind of take what I learned out of the book is that especially with how divisive we are as a population now, like as a country, even as a world population, because I think everybody's just getting a lot more divided. I want everybody to remember that it is okay to disagree with one another.
I disagree with that.
you are not, if you have ever once disagreed with someone and labeled them as an enemy or chosen to not be friends with them because of things you disagree on, policy-wise, you probably need to read this book.
Yes.
Because, and we've said that in the past, I think we said that on 2 episodes where, hey, it's the people that need to read this book the most won't, or I think everybody needs to read this book, but I think it takes some specific calling out where, like, if you've ever disagreed with someone in general and have been irked by that, you need to read this book, which if anybody knows me personally, like outside of listening to the podcast, like, you know I needed to read this book.
That's why I gave it to you, yeah.
And yeah, not only let me borrow it, but actually gave it to me. I tried returning it, you wouldn't let me.
Well, no, I bought it for you. It was a gift.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it is definitely a must read, and here's a couple of litmus tests for you. If you're wondering, man, I don't know that I should really read this. So if the statement you just made about disagreeing with people and still remaining friends, if that, like, you know, made some hairs in the back of your neck or your arms stand up, you should read that book.
Yeah.
If you scroll on Facebook and you see somebody, if you're a left-leaning person, you see something on the right that somebody posted from the right, and it just elevated your heart rate slightly, or vice versa. If you're on the right and you saw something that somebody from the left posted, and it was like, oh man, you start to feel the blood pressure go up, you need to read that book.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm doing? I'm getting everybody, right? Like or if you're like, no, that's not me, I don't need to read it. You need to read that book.
Right, because you're lying.
Exactly. And if that just triggered you, you need to read this. So I do like the subtitle of the book. I had to Google it. So it's by Arthur Brooks. It's called Love Your Enemies: How Decent People Can Save America from the Culture of Contempt.
Yeah.
And I really like, I don't know if you remember this, you probably remember it better than I do, but like in the very early pages of that book, he does a great job of painting the picture of what contempt is and what it is not.
Right.
Right? And so I'm, you know me, I'm a big believer in the words that you use and language and all that kind of stuff. So I do like that, number one, he used that language in the titling of his book, but then also went into an in-depth kind of description of here's why I chose that word, here's what it means, and here's the context that I'm going to be using it in.
And use actual research, like research articles, like research projects that specifically researched that definition of contempt.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just like, okay, this is contempt and this is what I'm talking about. It was like, he used, and like, did you look at the notes in the back of the book? Like the amount of sources.
Oh, it is pretty wild.
It was like, I didn't even know that many research articles existed in the world.
Yeah.
It's just.
That's what the thing with good books is. The people that write these really good books, they do their homework.
Yeah. Have you seen his Instagram or like looked
I
at his
have not.
podcast?
No.
It's pretty good. It's as soon as I finish the book, I always read before I go to bed now, which is funny because a month ago I wasn't reading.
Yeah.
We were talking about that, but now I do it before I go to bed. And so I had some time left, and so I was like, let me check out this guy's Instagram. So I checked it out, and now he's got a pretty popular podcast in which he talks about like basically like trying to achieve happiness through all of this divisiveness we're in. And like if you're spending time on certain unnecessary things, then that's what's leading, scientifically, like that's what's leading you to unhappiness on a chemical level, but also on more of like a personal, emotional level. It's really, really cool.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but his name's Arthur Brooks, and that's if you just Instagram search Arthur Brooks. But
cool.
Yeah, I think we ruffled a few feathers. I was gonna say some other things more specifically that like would ruffle feathers, but I'm not gonna, because it's.
Well, maybe you save them, and then if someone's like, yeah, I looked it up, I don't really think I like it, I give you permission to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, like you need to read the book. I will say though that something I really liked, and something that stuck with me from like the middle of the book, because I really just retained this one, is that disagreeing like basically equals what we call a competition of ideas.
Yes.
And if there aren't a competition of ideas, then there's really like just dogmatic approaches to one way or the other, which means no change ever occurs. And I think people are so afraid of change.
Yeah.
It's something that's so natural that they're afraid of disagreeing because they're afraid of that competition. Right? So it's like this vicious circle that's going on where it's like you need to be able to disagree with somebody on certain issues without being dogmatic about it and really listen to them. So it's something like, well, Josh, how do you feel? We'll get into it. Hey, how do you feel about masks? Well, I think masks are, no, that's totally wrong. It's like, well, no, I'm gonna listen. I just asked Josh what he thinks about wearing face masks.
Right.
I'm gonna listen to him, and if I disagree, I'm gonna say, well, that's an interesting point, but this, and that. And I'm not gonna be, again, dogmatic. I'm not gonna be aggressive. It's because it's totally natural for people to disagree about things. And I don't know how, and he kind of talks about it, but it's still just so puzzling how, as a society, we got to the point to where if you disagree with me, I hate you. Right?
That's strong language.
Yeah, like that's, I mean, it's contempt. So,
yeah.
It's a great book. I think everybody, if you're still listening to the show, I think you really
if you want to stop talking about it, go read it.
I've told 3 separate people. I've told my best friend from high school, my mom, and Emily about it, and each of them were like, yeah, like, let me borrow that whenever you're done, because it just seems that interesting as a topic in general.
So that's actually quite fascinating that the 3 people that you chose, think about that. We all, you and I talked about this, I think last weekend before we went live on the podcast, but everybody, maybe it was after, I don't know. Everybody has this idea, this grand idea in their head that they want to change the world, and we see so much wrong with it, so much divisiveness, and yada, 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 and we're championing these causes. And I talked about this early on in the pandemic with the staff, is like, that's all great and well and good, and the intention is there, but what first you need to do is like, you start within and realize that the first thing that you need to do is fix your heart, right, and to fix yourself, and then you can take it to the people that you have, the most influence with, which for you is like your mom, your girlfriend, and your best friend that you've known for years and years and years. So instead of, just randomly, I mean, of course we're doing this on our podcast, but it's people that we have great influence with too, but for you to make that personal introduction, that's really where long-lasting change that's sustainable takes place.
Right.
Yeah. And it didn't need to be 3,000 people. It didn't need to be to all these Instagram followers. 3 people. For me, and this isn't like a pat on the back, but it's like one. Let me just start with one person. Here you go.
Yeah.
And then guess what? I also recognize, number one, I care about you a lot, but also that you have great influence over these people that you see every single day. So if I can help you, then guess what? It transcends far more than just that one.
So read the book.
Yeah.
Just read it. It's short. It's 215 pages. You read 10 pages a day. That's 3 weeks. It's done.
Let me do the math. Okay, that's right.
Okay.
All right, listener questions. This is a carryover from like 3 weeks ago. I'm going to ask you at first because I answered it last time. If you want to hear my answer, just go back episode 48, 49, something like that. Why do you exercise?
Yeah, so why do I exercise? So quick review, we talked about what makes a workout a good workout.
Yep.
And we kind of talked about what that kind of means and why, we kind of gave some action steps, told people to think about why they do it and then get back to us and talk to us. And then it kind of occurred to me, I was like, well, people are probably wondering why we do it. And then or what makes a good workout for us, which we did talk about on that episode. And then someone did ask me, they're like, well, why do you exercise? And so I have a couple of answers. Primarily, it's because it's something I like doing. And then a very close second, like these are almost tied, I like doing it because I like being at point A and getting to point B, like proving to myself that I did this. So like we've said a lot before on the show that like we don't need to snatch 200 pounds. We don't need to clean and jerk that much. But for me, like, it's really incredible seeing, one, where I've come from, two, to where I am now, and three, to where, like, okay, here are where my goals are at, and just saying, like, okay, like, this is something I've put my mind to, I've worked towards it, and, like, this is something I've accomplished. So, like, next goal is snatching, like, 225, right? I'm at 205 now, and, like, breaking the 200 mark was an incredible achievement for me, and, like, that's so validating for me, personally. And so just being able to, like, train and work towards something that for, you know, the hour or two that I spend working out, it's like that's my sole purpose, and then the other 23 hours a day I can focus on something else. Like, it's just nice to feel that and see that progress. So I'd say that's why I do it, and just to kind of make that a quick little tagline is, one, because I like doing it, I feel good afterwards, and it mentally helps me just stay alert, you know, not even sane, but alert and healthy and less brain fog and all that jazz. Two, because I like seeing what I'm capable of. And I would like to see what else I'm capable of.
Would you feel less than if, say, you never snatched 225? Like, if that never, because I'm actually, to be honest, like, wrestling with this, because I've always thought that would be cool to be able to, you know, clean and jerk, say, 300 and snatch 225 or something like that. And so for a long time, that was like a goal of mine, and I'm wrestling with the idea in my head that, okay, I know what it takes because I've coached for so long and I've trained for so long. I know what it would take to get there from where I am now, and knowing that I don't have any desire or intention to go through that.
Right.
And not because it's like, oh, it's going to hurt, or because I don't want to put in the time, but it's because I recognize that the trade-off of time would be better spent elsewhere, so somewhere that I enjoy more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, I have wrestled with that. I'm like, man, that kind of sucks. You know, knowing that I won't get there, but it's like I don't feel less than. So, but I just wonder for you if you've ever thought about that. You know, like if you set this goal and it's like, well, what happens if I don't get there? Like,
so I kind of want to answer that by unpacking what you said, because a huge part of it is it depends. So, like, you mentioned that at one time that was a goal of yours, but it's not anymore. So your priorities have shifted a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So it's almost like at the spot you're in right now, you're still wrestling with it. But say, like, 5 years ago when you were training really, really hard, right, with Ollie, like, if someone had told you, like, hey man, you're never gonna do it, you'd be crushed, right? You know, like, or you know, like, there's a chance you're never gonna snatch 225, like, you'd be crushed. But, like, your priorities have shifted right now. Right. Whereas, like, maybe that's the stage I'm in. So, like, okay, that's something I'm working towards, that's something I want to do. So if somebody from the future were like, hey man, I'm from 20 years in the future, like, that's something you never accomplished, I'm sorry. I'd be like, whoa. You're like, that'd be pretty upsetting to me, because I'd be like, well, almost what's the point? Like, what?
Yeah.
So right now, but see, now it's also, I'm also struggling with being realistic with it, because you can be realistic and hypothetical, and being realistic, I'm like, well, I know I can. Like, I know for me right now, it's barring injury, like, it's just a matter of time until I do it.
Yes.
So the hypothetical game is very puzzling, but I would say, to answer your overall question, like, if it never happened with the state of mind I'm in now, I think I would not feel less than, but just be pretty bummed out.
Yeah.
Because I don't equate all of my self-worth to snatching 225.
So that,
I'd be bummed out.
Yeah, so that's one of the two directions I wanted to, or two questions, follow-ups that I wanted to ask. One is, do you feel, hearing yourself say that, I was listening to another podcast, and it was with OPT, James Fitzgerald, and he's like, I'm noticing my noticing. So when you're saying that, are you noticing that you're kind of saying that some of your self-worth is wrapped up in this physical endeavor? Like, my self-worth is somewhat attached to me attaining this goal versus simply doing the work that I know it will take to get there, but then the outcome is just the outcome. Really, the value, and this is so hard to talk about because we are so goal-oriented at times, that really the value is not actually in the outcome of things, it's in the processes, and the habits that you build long term. So that was my first question. So think on that for a second while I unwrap this other one as your brain's exploding and everyone else is logged off. What if I told you, okay, it's going to take at least 20 years?
Just to hit 225? Like I'm not going to be at like 525 in 20 years?
But, right, so that is what I think about. Like, well, let's just say like 10 years, right? It's going to take at least 10 years of work to get to that. And I think that's probably maybe a metaphor for business, life, things like that. If somebody said, hey, to get CFG where you want it to, it's going to take you 10 years. And for 9 of those, it is really going to run you ragged. Then, knowing that, are you prepared to go through that? And so those are the things that I think about, is like, okay, somebody new comes in and says, my goal is X, and I say, okay, we do all the talking and the consulting, and I say, it's probably going to take at least 10 years to get there.
Right.
And it's like, well, I'm not cut out for that. Well, then that's really not the goal.
Interesting questions. I don't think I have the answer to that. I don't think I can just off the cuff on the podcast BS my way through this one. And I wouldn't want to.
No, but I think that's good, because the why do you exercise, going back to the initial question, the why do you exercise question seems so surface. But it would be easy for me to say, oh, well, because of the endorphins or the dopamine or these chemicals or anything like that. But really, like that, you're not thinking about that whenever you're in here. And if you want to actually get to the answer, which seems very elementary, what you said, but is actually very, very deep if people think about it, the questions that are like, oh, I need to sit with that, like, those are probably the ones that you should be sitting with.
Yeah. I'll have to, when I'm going back and editing this and like doing the timestamps and chapter markers and stuff, I'll have to think on it a little more and write it down. I guess 20 years to achieve a 20-pound increase. So basically a pound a year. Putting it that way, like if you could PR your snatch a pound a year, a year is a relatively short amount of time. Look how fast 2020 has gone. Like if you PR'd your snatch by 1 pound of your personal best,
and think about it, doing it in the year of 2020,
right?
Like you could still increase something like that. Because I think that speaks way bigger to what you're made of.
Yeah.
In the midst of all this that's going on, this chaos, this uncertainty, the discipline that it would take to get another pound, I think is worth way more than that 1 pound.
Right.
And so when you think about that, it's like, all right, what is all the other growth and discipline that I'm going to cultivate in that 20 years to hit that 20 pounds? Then maybe even if you get to 224, is that failure?
Yes. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool. All right. So that's just something to sit on.
Dang.
Take that. Mark couldn't answer it. Let's go to number 2.
So I'll ask this one to you.
Okay.
So this one says, I find that I sometimes get off track or lose focus of my goals. What are some strategies to help mitigate this?
Okay, so the background to this is I've been asked this question countless times, and then I've also noticed this about people, because I'm very aware of the reasons that people have said they are doing the thing. And now whether or not that's actually why they're doing the thing, that's a whole other ball of wax that we actually touched on a little bit last time. But the first thing that you have to do is recognize that, okay, when you have this goal, and let's just say that is the true sense of what it is. So the first piece that you need to recognize is that you need to maintain focus, but it's very easy to lose focus if you don't take into account the other pieces that are necessary and vital to the process, which is recognizing that it takes effort, so I have to actually put in the work, and that it also takes time. And so this kind of ties in, I wasn't actually planning on going down this road, but it kind of ties into what we're saying about the 225 snatch is like, okay, that's the goal, so I focus on this. I realize that I've got an effort, so we would call that like our plan. This is the training plan, the work that you are going to do. I've actually got to put in work. I can't just hope and pray and then wait, and then I get the goal. That's two of the three legs of the triangle. Or the legs that are holding up the table, whatever silly analogy or metaphor. I always get those two confused. What's what? Anyways.
What, simile metaphor?
No, metaphor or analogy. But anyways, whatever you want to choose, like you're only getting two of those components, so you have to have all three. So that's part of what we call enjoying the process. But, so if you get off track or lose focus, if you just keep sticking with those other two, i.e. effort and putting in the time, what we find over time is that those things start to recrystallize and the goal comes back into focus.
Okay.
So there's that. There's also the element in recognizing that over time, goals change. So that's why we encourage everybody to take us up on what we talk about all the time, which is doing a goal review, or whatever fancy term you want to use, a check-in with your coach or whatever, but just set aside some time to talk to the professional that you pay to help get you from where you are to where you want to go. So that's the next thing that I would tell people. But the third one is you need to ask yourself, as often as is necessary, why am I doing this? So we relate it to exercise or sleep or nutrition or stress management, but let's just say for sake of argument, you come into the gym and you've got a workout on the board that says for 45 minutes I'm going to be stepping up to the box. And you're like, okay, I can't focus on what my goal is, but I know that I need to ask myself this question: why am I doing this? Why am I here? And at the 20-minute mark, ask yourself that question and answer it again and again and again and again, because what we know is with consistency, with repetition, doing something over and over and over, it helps you form this picture in your head of, okay, now it's locked in solid. I know what I'm going for. My pastor would probably kill me that I can't actually remember what the verse is, but there's a verse in the Bible that says, without vision the people will perish. So this is the same thing that we think about with regards to vision within business, but it's just as true vision for yourself. So if you said, I want to snatch more, it's like, awesome. What does that mean? You want to snatch 206 or 256? Mm-hmm. So I know that I want more, but you really need to dial it in and make that vision as clear as you possibly can. Well, how do you do that? By asking yourself that question. Why am I doing this? Am I doing these step-ups because I want to be a competitive athlete in the functional fitness space? Am I doing it because I want to be able to play with my kids all day, every day, and not feel like I have to warm up to get down onto the ground and play with my kids? Okay, so maybe I don't need to do 1,000 or 45 minutes or do it to this box that's an arbitrary, height. Maybe I go for a 45-minute walk. Or maybe I do 45 minutes but to just one plate. But unless you ask yourself that question often enough, then you're always going to be at the whim of your emotion instead of logic and reason. You're always given into the right side of your brain, which is dictated by emotion, versus the left side, which is where logic and analytical stuff happens.
Can somebody's why change? So you mentioned the two very polarizing examples is somebody that wants to come in and play with their kids and so overall live a healthier lifestyle, and something that is arguably on a different end of the spectrum, being a competitive functional fitness athlete, right? Because I would say you can't, those elite athletes are incredible, right? They're great. Right. I would argue they're not they should not be an example or a beacon of health and wellness.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, all of it. Like they're just not there mentally. No, I'm just kidding. But there are other things going on, and so can that why change? Meaning somebody that comes in, on November 11th of 2020, and they say, hey, like, I just want to be in overall better shape. I used to be a pretty competitive athlete, and I just kind of want to be in good shape again, kind of like how I was then. Also, I have a kid on the way and 2 other kids now. And then in November 11th, 2021, a year from now, they've gotten in pretty good shape. They've got a pretty good grasp on the most things they do in here, and they say, hey, I want to make a run at just being a little bit more competitive, whether it's in their novice division or their intermediate or their whatever division. Is that something you would argue is unnecessary, or do you think that change in their why is okay?
Man, that's such a great question. So, yes.
We hear it a lot.
Your
That's why
why. Yeah, so your why can and will definitely change over time. The more frequently that it does, what that indicates is that we as coaches, as your coach, or as your coaches, have not done a good enough job of asking the hard questions to really get down into the weeds of, okay, is this actually your true intention? And meaning, we are experienced enough to paint the picture of, okay, that you're exactly right when you say that they couldn't be more opposite ends of the spectrum, right? The 99.9% that we represent here with the families and the kids and the jobs and all that versus the person who, I've heard it put really well that athletes are the ones that are going for points, pleasure, prizes, and pain. So like those 4 things are that is the goal, that is the focus, that is the why. So if you're skewing towards that, I think that is certainly possible. I think that usually what happens is, like, especially the scenario that you painted is very interesting. It's, okay, I used to be a former athlete, I work a job, I've got, I don't know if you said a kid and 1 on the way, or if it was just 1 on the way. So immediately my head, being a parent, goes to, okay, so it's been a year, you've got at least a 1-year-old, if not more than that 1 kid, and now all of a sudden you want to make the jump to being competitive. Okay, let me paint the picture of what that looks like for you. And we will go through and we will talk about the physical, mechanical pain that you are going to be in, because presumably you're a professional, you've got kids, you're married, that tells me something about probably the age bracket, you had a competitive background, so there's all these things that dictate where you are in your life. So it's my job as a coach to paint the picture of, okay, what does your morning routine look like? Are you okay with skipping out on functions? Are you okay with, your shoulder, being hurt? Or what if you, blow your knee out? Like, I have to be honest and show all these things so that then you understand what it's going to take. And then we can set some specifics on, okay, when are we going to know that this has been a good decision? When are we going to know if it hasn't been? And what is that conversation going to look like? Okay, what is the goal? Is it to qualify for this or whatever? What happens if you don't? Is that a failure? Kind of like the questions I was asking you. So, can it change? Yes. If it changes too frequently, I would say it was our fault for not asking the questions or not holding you accountable when we see you to what you said on the first day. It's also why we, again, encourage people to meet no longer than 90 days in between these long-term meetings. I would really say they should probably happen monthly, but that's a different story for a different day. So if they're happening too frequently, we talked about that. Can they change? Yes, but it has to happen with a abundance of clarity of what it will take. And that could be a transition from being a competitor to being a normal dad, right?
Right.
Like that's arguably harder to do. It's like people, and I'm not trying to make this equivalency comparison between soldiers that come back, from war and competitive athletes that got paid millions of dollars to play a game and when they retire. But there is some similarities in like PTSD, the way that it manifests itself between those two. And so that you have to view it through that lens too, of it's not just I'm a regular dude that wants to be a competitor, but also recognizing that it's the competitor that wants to or needs to transition to regular dude. Sorry if that was a...
No, and so I'm just thinking about, I asked that because it's something we've been approached with before, probably more times than we can count. And I think it's a good question to ask on behalf of people, even if it wasn't explicitly asked, so that we can have that answer, one, on record. We can use it as coaches, but also so listeners can use that if it's something they might identify with. To scale it back a little bit, and this probably goes along the same lines, but it's, say you have the same person coming in, same exact archetype. They don't really care about being too competitive, meaning with other people on a leaderboard or going to any sort of like event or anything like that, but they kind of want to get better at the stuff they do in here. Now, we've said before on the show, like, we would argue that you don't have to be good at this stuff to be able to move and get the physical activity you need to be a better person or reach your overarching original goal. But what if somebody's like, hey, I want to be better at, we always say the muscle up, we always use that example, like, I want to be better at that, I want to be better at handstand walking just because it's kind of cool, like it's something I just want to be better at. What would your response be? And like, that's the reason, like that's just it, like it just kind of intrigues me, I want to be a little bit better.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. And I meant to say this earlier, I want to go back and say that it's never our place, nor do we put judgment onto what anybody's goals or intentions are for why they do what they do. It's our job to, help them unpack what that looks like, because that's really what we're paid to do, is be the expert. Like if I go to somebody to get a home loan, I don't know all the terms and everything. That's why I'm paying a professional to help shepherd me through that process, and that's really the role that we play. So, like the goal of a specific movement, I think is a really, really good one. Again, I think it just boils down to the same thing, is, okay, where are you today? And whatever the goal is, I need to be knowledgeable enough as a coach to be very honest and say, okay, it could take you at least 12 months to get there. Do we understand? 12 months, okay? That's a full year, 365 days, and you're going to need to do these things week in, week out for 52 weeks, and really be honest and show them what that plan looks like, and make sure that we're both in agreement. And this, I don't know if it was, I think it was 2 episodes ago when somebody asked a question about adherence to a program. It's like, okay, well, do we agree that, we will get there if we do these things, hopefully, but we know for sure we're not going to get there if you don't do these things consistently. So there's all, like, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
And I know it's an unpopular answer. It's like, well, just tell me the plan. No. Like, we need to flesh this out. Okay, so we agree that it's going to take an extra 3 hours a week of work. How are you going to fit that in? Because if I go back and look at what your attendance has been, well, right now you're only coming 3 hours.
Right.
So where are you going to double the investment that you are currently making right now? And why haven't you done that prior? And now those all may be valid answers, and they may come to terms with all this, and we have an agreement, but that's part of it. It can't just be, oh, I want to get this, okay, cool, here's the plan. And admittedly, this is mistakes that I can speak to because I've made them on behalf of people that I've worked with for the past 18 years, where it's like, oh, you want to do this? Great, okay. Well, it can't just be that.
Right.
And there are also times when I need to be like, okay, hold on. This is why maybe I don't think this is right for you, but here's why. What do you think? Okay, where do we want to go from there?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
hopefully that resonates with some people that are listening.
Yeah. And again, what I would say is if there are things that you want to achieve in the gym, out of the gym, go and talk to your coach, because that is what we're here for. Like, we know what we're doing.
We're not just here to say 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
We wanna help. Really cool. Anything you wanted to add on that second question?
Nope. I'm good. Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing
Ask
this?
yourself that.
Why are you doing this?
Because I can.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I do.
Are there ever days you come in? This is an interesting question. Are there ever days you come in and you're like, I didn't like that.
Oh yeah.
Like, I didn't like that movement, or like I didn't like that workout, or I didn't
so
like...
it's not so much that like I didn't like that workout or I didn't like that movement. I treat it as more of, probably wasn't the right choice for me. What should I have done differently? What could I have done better? So it's always I always look at it as a learning experiment, you know?
Yeah.
I don't remember who the guy that said it, but you know, if you're only gonna get up and do the hard thing on days when you feel really good, you're not gonna get very far, or something to that effect, right? And so yeah, there's plenty of days when I'm like, man, I'd rather just like today, it was raining, like there's nothing better than sleeping or napping while it's raining. Everybody can agree to that, right?
Yeah.
Well, but I get up and I go to the gym because I'm capable of doing it.
Will you take a nap this afternoon?
No, I got a really busy afternoon. That's why I said I got 8 minutes to get to this last question.
Alright, so this last question then. What specific morning routines do you guys have? And I think mine's going to be pretty short. This won't take 8 minutes. So I'll ask you first. What's your specific morning routine? What's that look like?
I don't know how in depth they want me to go with the bodily functions, Mark, but and I've talked about this before. I am crazy routine oriented. I believe in the whole win the morning, win the day type thing. I know that sounds so cliche and woo-woo, but it's taken me a long time to come around to that. But anyways, so to answer the question, I get up without an alarm. I go to the bathroom and brush my teeth.
Okay.
I make my pot of coffee. While that is brewing, I read the Bible. I read a section of the Bible. I just, about a month ago, I finished my second time all the way through the Bible from beginning to end. I've read it in its entirety before, but starting in Genesis and ending in Revelation is really like a feat, and I've wanted to do it for years, and so I've actually done it 2 times in a row now.
Nice.
So that was cool. So anyways, so I read the Bible, and then I've actually got a little daily devotional that has like a passage of scripture, and then like here's how to relate it to life in the real world and to meditate on it, that Rob and Vicky Rivera gave me for my birthday. So that has been amazing. It's a cool little 1-pager, so I read that. And then in my email every day, I get a devotional from our church, so I read that. And then after that, I go and I read a chapter from whatever book I am currently reading. And usually after the last devotional that I read is when I go get my coffee, and then I bring that back and I drink that while I'm reading my book. And usually the book takes, I don't know, 20 to 25 pages, maybe half an hour. So I don't know, I've never really timed it. And then after that, the rest of my day is, I go and check my messages, check my emails, if I have to get up and write something. But like that, up to that point with the coffee and the book is non-negotiable. That's every single day, no matter what. Then I go and look at my calendar. Do I have to write anything, publish anything, all that? And then I go to what you and I talk about is like the reactive stuff, the emails, the messages. And then it's off to the races.
Yeah. Mine's a lot shorter. It is, I wake up with an alarm, unless it's usually on Sundays. Sundays I'm like, I'm just going to sleep until my body tells me to sleep. And sometimes, hey, you're going to laugh, sometimes it's like 10:30.
Hey,
like,
you're young.
I need it. But most of the time, if I'm coaching 5:30, I'm going to set an alarm 4:45. If it's any other day of the week, it's probably going to be about 8.
Okay.
Get up with the alarm. This isn't good, but I'll probably, like, my alarm's on my phone, so I'll roll over, grab my phone, snooze it, then it'll ring again. I'll swear in my head, and then because the alarm's so loud and now it's even closer, I'll turn that off. Check any like messages or anything if I have. I won't answer them. I'll just check and kind of see, like, get my brain like reading that stuff and just kind of overall working. Like, okay, like here's what's on the horizon or that I'm gonna respond to in the next 10, 15 minutes or whatever. Get up, bathroom, brush teeth, Dio. Need the Dio, man. And then I heard you say you put Dio on, so I know you're stinky.
That's right. Wait till I get up out of this chair.
No. And then get dressed or put my hair up because I got long hair. Get dressed, which is super easy. Shorts and a t-shirt, socks and shoes.
I actually didn't say that I get dressed, so I guess people are assuming that I just, whatever I was asleep in is what I am going around the house and the world with.
And then head out. Normally when I wake up, I'll grab like a big sip of water, like just to get started.
That's a really actually healthy habit.
Yeah, so I'll just like maybe a couple gulps, especially like sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night really thirsty, so then I'll wake up at my normal time and I'll just be like through like 10 huge gulps of water. And then I'll head out into the kitchen, take my creatine, grab anything I might need, and then it's usually up here.
That's right, no coffee. Yeah, you've been on the no coffee for a while.
No coffee train, man. I feel great.
Good.
I feel hydrated.
Good.
My pee smells not like coffee, so it's good.
It's so bad.
Man, it's...
Yeah.
I always forget that, like when I go drink coffee and then I'll, go to the bathroom, I'll be like, is someone making coffee in this bathroom? But,
that's so good.
But yeah, it's pretty simple morning routine. Up, usual, get ready in the bathroom, put clothes on, take my creatine, and I'm out.
And you're out.
I'm out the door, man. Pretty quickly.
It's taken me, so I've had this routine for about, 2.5 or 3 years now, I think.
It's good that you don't wake up with an alarm. It's good that you've made that habit, and then like all the other stuff falls into place. So like the reading, the devotionals with the coffee, and then reading your book with your coffee. It's just good that you've made all that habit over the last, like you said, 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah, so I think I talked about this, that one of the best books of 2020 that I've read is Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I've shared a bunch of stuff with the staff from that book, but it's funny hearing you talk about it. It's like, well, I did this, and then I added this, and then I added this, and he talks, it's called habit stacking. It's a way that you can layer on new habits that you want to, new actions that you want to become habits. If you pair them with something else you're already doing, they become much more sticky over time. And so, yeah, it's funny that you identify that, because then in my head I'm thinking, well, yeah, first it was I was just getting up and reading, and then or getting up and having the coffee, and then I was like, well, I'm just sitting there, let me be productive. So then it was, okay, let me make the coffee and read, while I'm having my coffee, and then it was, so it's all these things that are really attached to that morning routine that it also provides like good rhythm, and it's a source of comfort. And dude, you've never really seen me, I don't have much anxiety, but the mornings where I'm like just a little bit later getting up and the family's a little bit earlier and they interrupt my routine, oh man. Like I gotta go outside and like, let me continue, let me get to the finish of my coffee and my reading, and then I can deal with everything else. But if it's like a couple of days ago, I think it was over the weekend, the kids got up and I was like right in the middle of this long chapter I was reading, and it took me 5 times as long to finish it. It was not a good morning.
So
I was like, go back to bed, let Dad finish.
Is it the interruption of the routine, or is it the tardiness? Because I know you are not a fan of tardiness. So is it a mixture of both? It's
both, because if I'm even on the weekends, I'm up by 6 at the latest, and so even the days when I get up at like 6:15 or 6:30, man, I'm like, oh man, I'm so behind. Like something's not getting done today because I got up a little bit later.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I saw a little bit of that anxiety when Bart was standing in the doorway before we got started. You're like shutting the door. You're like, I'm like,
yeah.
Sorry, let's get started.
I like Mark James chimed in. Hey, Mark, he said, I wake up, take my athletic greens. I've heard that's actually not bad. Walk the dogs, clean up, cup of coffee while watching the news, then I head to work. Yeah, I bet, and I bet, I don't know if he's still listening, but he's probably had that routine for 25 years.
Right.
Like, you could set a clock by that routine with Mark James.
Shout out to Marc James. You wore a ruck for that workout today, man. It was beast mode. Well,
right.
That's all the listener questions. We kept this one short today. We're just over an hour. Gotta get out of here. Guys, if you tuned in the live feed, thank you for watching that. Thank you for to Mark for being our one and only contributor today. We appreciate that in your morning routine. If you listen to the show, as always, thank you. We kept this one. We call this is a short.
This is the shortest podcast we've ever done.
Yeah, it's still over an hour. So
awesome.
if you listen to it today, thank you very much. As always, 5-star written review. Ask us listener questions. You'll get it answered on the show. And until next time, this was episode 52 of The Art of Coaching.